The family of a 17-year-old girl who was on a first date at Alton Towers last week have confirmed that she's lost a leg as a result of the roller coaster crash there. In a statement, Leah Washington's father's thanked staff at the hospital where she's being treated, saying that she now faces many months of rehabilitation. Alton Towers says it's deeply saddened by the news and that it will provide full support to all the families involved. The park has reopened today, although the Smiler ride, where the crash happened, will remain closed while an investigation is carried out. These visitors at Alton Towers said that last week's crash hadn't put them off.
It's known for being a good theme park anyway, so even though obviously it was a really bad accident, we're still happy to be here.
There's probably more chance of us dying in a car crash on the way here rather than getting on the ride. It's one of these accidents that, probably could have been helped, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't have stopped us coming anyway, to be honest.
This is for the safest time to come, seeing as everything's been tested, and I've been so excited for it. We haven't done anything for 2 years, or we've been saving for our wedding, so it was something I was really, really looking forward to doing this week. So I've sat with fingers crossed since I heard about the accident. Obviously, it's ever so sad.
Well, Alton Towers have just put out a new statement in the last 10 minutes or so. Part of it says, we're deeply saddened by the news about Leah. All our thoughts are with her and her family. We cannot undo the events of last week, but everyone in the company and at Alton Towers is determined to do all we can to provide appropriate support to those who were injured and to their families. It does say we've recommended to each of the injured guests or their families instruct a lawyer and submit a claim for compensation, which will ensure is dealt with swiftly and sensitively. Let's speak to a legal expert, Robin Patey, who's a senior partner at Express Solicitors in Manchester, which specialises in personal injury claims. Robin, good evening.
Good evening.
I also notice in this statement that they've hand-delivered letters to all those 16 people who were injured, and they do say in these letters we've accepted full responsibility to those who've been injured in the accident. That's probably an important part of it, is it? Because it would make the claims process, I imagine, a little more swift.
You would certainly hope so, yes. I think everybody would welcome that sort of statement from Merlin. It would seem to be a pretty clear-cut case and straightforward. But you're quite right, the first stage in any personal injury case is to establish liability, and that burden of proof is on the claimant, the injured person, to establish that the other party was to blame for the accident. But that's certainly a positive step forward, yes.
Just remind us why something like this is so important, particularly in the case of somebody who suffers a life-changing injury.
Well, in terms of personal injury compensation, as you say, for young people, for all injured people, but particularly in terms of life-changing injury, those injuries are exactly that. Clearly, I think all of the people involved were young individuals, so they're probably still at school or studying at college, and it may well have affected those studies. If it affects their long-term career progression, all of those things would be taken into account by a court in terms of assessing compensation. So although it may well be a substantial amount of money that's paid, there are likely to be substantial losses as well, treatment losses, and I think it's helpful that Merlin have said that they would support, I think I've read a statement saying they would support ongoing rehabilitation that may be required. The NHS can be great in dealing with the initial traumatic stages, but often, from my experience, we find that it's a few months down the line where sometimes the follow-up isn't as good as it could be, so that future rehabilitation is going to be very important, particularly in an amputation case, which is obviously very tragic.
Yeah, they do say you're right. They say that they've engaged the services of a company who do provide rehabilitation. And They also say whether from the NHS or by providing additional support and services, which seems to suggest that they're prepared to, send people for private treatment if that's what's deemed best for them.
Yes, they're certainly saying all the right things at the moment, which, is to be welcomed, but I'm sure there's a media relations spin on that as well. But they'll probably put it in the hands of their insurers. I understand most, or certainly the most severely injured people have already engaged solicitors. So from my point of view, that's certainly a very important thing at an early stage, particularly in a life-changing injury, because early intervention really can be the key in terms of a good long-term prognosis and a good recovery. And that's what, frankly, everybody would want, solicitors and insurance companies as well. I'm sure Merlin have got it in the hands of their insurers already, so let's hope that the insurers stick to that line going forward.
Yeah, just as a final brief thought, how much could this cost Alton Towers in terms of payouts?
Well, I imagine they put it in the hands of their insurers, so it'll probably cost their insurers, but there may be a very high excess on that, or certainly in terms of a claims record going forward. Insurance always works on the basis of a claims record, but certainly for the brief information that I've seen, and I'm not representing any of these people, but from what I've seen, they're certainly talking about, six-figure sums, and depending on the number of people involved and the long-term prognosis, we hope the long-term prognosis will be good, and we'd wish them all a speedy recovery. But if it isn't, or, there are problems in the future, the bill could run into certainly hundreds of thousands, if not millions, depending on the number of people involved and the severity of the injuries.
Robin, thank you. Robin Patey, who's a senior partner at Express Solicitors in Manchester. It's just coming round to 5:20.
This is 5 Live Drive.